Hi everyone, it's Karynjean from Ex Libris Crafts. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio today. What we're going to be doing here is taking this scrap piece of paper and making a couple of cards out of it. So what I'm doing now is figuring out the measurements and the sizes that I need to cut it down to. I will be cutting this down to 4 by 5 1/4, and I will be getting 2 pieces out of that. Right now what I'm doing is I'm cutting off the darker edges because I don't want that on the card. And what I decided I had to do was take it over to the large rotary in order to cut that down. The card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I can't even anymore. And as you see, now I'm just lining them up with the card base and going on to the next step. And now the next step is me deciding on what I want to put on top of that pretty daisy paper. I want to do a flower, and I was going through different stencils and stamps and embossing folders, and what I came up with is, you see to my right there, the Simon Hurley stamp set. I don't remember the name of it. This stamp set has been in my stash and I haven't used it yet, but that flower there that you see on the right, which is more of like a sunflower, is the one I am going to use to print out. Yes, that one, and fussy cut it. And I also have pulled out a couple of Simon Hurley inks, but what I think I'm going to do here is use mowed lawn around the card base just to cover up the white and make that green. As you can see, I have stamped out 2 of those flowers because we're doing 2 cards. And then what I did was I just put embossing powder on them because, you know me, I smudge things. And what I've decided to do here, instead of using the Simon Hurley Slippery When Wet ink, is I want to use the lunar paste because I want that flower to shine a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be filling in the petals with the lunar paste of Slippery When Wet because it's really a very pretty gold. And then I take and use, I believe, mowed lawn for the stem of the flower. And here I have done the outside edges of the card bases with mowed lawn. And now I'm just looking to see how I like that, which I do. I think it's very pretty. And I'm using wet glue here, which is my art glitter glue, in order to adhere down the daisy paper to the card base. And after much fussy cutting later, as you can see, the 2 flowers are cut out. Now I had stamped these down onto Bristol smooth white cardstock, which does a beautiful blend, but is a bit heavier, so that is why I was having difficulty with the fussy cutting. And you can see the black marker lines on the back of this. I went around the edges after I fussy cut the flowers out. I went around the edges from the underneath side, hence the mess, with, oh, excuse me, it's early in the morning and I'm a bit throaty and froggy. I went around it with black marker. And now I'm gluing these down. And what I've decided actually is, although here on camera that gold does look like it's really shining, I decided that I wanted it to really pop. So after I put these down, I actually had to put weights down because again, the paper that I used for the flowers was pretty thick. So I needed to weigh it down a little bit to make sure that it was going to stay flat on the card base. And then after I did that, I went ahead and covered it with glossy accents. So the next thing you see will be the flowers all covered with glossy accents. And now here are the cards with the flowers covered in glossy accents and dry. And you can see that they really pop now. That shine is much deeper due to the glossy accents. Now here, this is the sentiment that I like. And I did 2 in green and 2 in black just because I messed things up. And I did put embossing powder on them so that they wouldn't smudge, but the green is Mowed Lawn by Tim Holtz, right? The Mowed Lawn. And that pretty much was dry before I got the embossing powder on it. But what I'm doing here is I realized that it's too big for the card front. So I've decided to actually place it inside the card. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the Simon Hurley Lunar Paste and just put some around the edges of the sentiments there. Well, I'm glad I made extras. As you can see, the one on the top of the screen in green, first I tried using my finger to put the lunar paste around the edges, and that turned out to be a mess. The one that you see in the center of the screen, the black one, I have this little Ranger foam, mini foam thing, right? And I did use that for the one on top, but also I thought the edging was a little bit too thick. So then I took a little bit greater care, and the two on the bottom, the black and the green, that have just the narrow band of the lunar paste are the ones that I decide to use. And here they are, done and dusted, as Natasha Foote likes to say. Our two just generic Have a Beautiful Day cards. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it encourages you to go out into your stash and use what you don't use. Right now I'm tearing away that paper just so that we can get a better look at the cards without all the mess behind it. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. Let your imagination take flight. I'll see you next time. Thanks for stopping by.